Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Bradburn. Alongside me is Logan Camden, and we are officially into the final week of the NBA regular season, and we had a pretty eventful penultimate weekend of the regular season. You can look that one up in your dictionary, Logan. Penultimate. It means second to last. I spoiled it for you. Lot went down, and I think the biggest story to come out of the weekend was the Los Angeles Lakers just beating down the Oklahoma City Thunder, blowing them out end to end. What do you make of that result, Logan? Was that real or fake?
I can't call it fake. And Carson, you breaking out these big syllable words, you're going to make my brain overheat, man. I swear.
I'm sorry about that. I know.
I can't call it fake because it's something that I can't rule out happening again if these teams were, able to do battle. Like, I think the Lakers have a superpower, and that superpower is the ability to spray from beyond the arc. They outshot Oklahoma City by 30 points from the three-point line. They were obliterating the OKC zone. They were attacking and abusing switching bigs on the perimeter. And they kept just spamming high screens and handoffs, spraying threes. And, I mean, this is a Lakers team that we've talked about over the last few weeks. Had been in a bit of a skid, and they were due to look way better. And I think they got cranked up for one of the bigger games in the back half of the season against the best team in the West. Interrelated with that, I also have to say I thought this was a piss-poor defensive effort from Oklahoma City. I have to lament them. Oklahoma City allowed 126 points in this game. It's the second highest offensive rating allowed in a game by OKC this year. And it's the ninth time Oklahoma City has allowed 125 or more points in a game this season. The most staggering number to me about all this, though, was the fact that Los Angeles generated 36 open or wide open threes in this game. They took 40 on the night. 36 of them were classified as either open or wide open. That's when a defender is 4 to 6 feet away from the jump shooter. And they shot 20 of 36 on those looks, 55%. I mean, we're just spraying all game long. So, I thought LA had a really good game plan. I thought they executed. I thought they killed them from behind the arc. But also with that, I thought the Thunder were lazy, a step slow all game, and really sleepwalking. And that's just defensively. Offensively, I thought we got big letdown games from the supporting cast. From J-Dub, 16 points on 4 of 14. Chet Holmgren in foul trouble, had 4 fouls in 24 minutes. He's on, kind of a restriction. Only scores 10 points in this game. So I can't say it was a fake result because in a hypothetical series against LA or something like this, I could see LA doing this in a couple of games. Like, this offense is legit. I'm not surprised at all that LA could do this in an individual game, but there are things that I expect in a playoff series to swing back in Oklahoma City's favor. I expect J-Dub and Chet to be better. I expect the surrounding shooters to shoot better. And I really expect a much better defensive performance from Oklahoma City. That's the biggest thing to me. This has been a historic defense all year long. I don't think that's fake. I think the sample size and what I've come to know and believe from this group is real. I just can't imagine Oklahoma City sleepwalking through a game defensively like this again. That was the most disappointing thing for me from this Thunder team, but I can't say anything negative about this LA offense. I think it is among the best in the NBA.
It was a phenomenal offensive performance by the Lakers for sure. Part of that was outlier shot making. Like, I'm glad that you mentioned that this was a defensive performance by OKC that is way below their standard. I thought that a lot of the rotations were not as sharp as normal. I thought a lot of the closeouts were slower than normal. It was not a high effort performance, and to be fair, they really have nothing to play for other than pride. I mean, obviously they have the 1 seed locked up by far. So LA was able to generate a lot of open, good looks from three. At the same time, they made them at a ridiculous clip. And it wasn't just like open catch and shoot threes. We're talking about their raining pull-up threes. Luka cannot miss on some tough step backs. Then you have LeBron just like hitting turnaround over turnaround. Like the 2-point jumpers were all falling. Like, it was insane. They became the 9th team ever in the first half of this game to have a half. This is actually before the Austin Reeves heave, where they made 15 plus threes and made at least 70% of them. So that is the biggest difference in this game. because you mentioned the numbers specifically on open and wide open threes where LA is shooting 55%. The Thunder generated almost as many open and wide open threes. They had 33 of them. They made 10. So if one team's going to shoot 55% on their good looks from three and the other team is going to shoot 30% on their good looks from three, the team that shoots 30% is just not going to win that game ever in the NBA, and they're honestly going to struggle to be competitive a vast majority of the time. I did think that OKC was able to get some good looks in this game that just did not fall from the perimeter, and I also thought their finishing was bad in this game. They had more than double the restricted area attempts that LA did, but just were not efficient at the rim, and I thought that especially J-Dub missed a whole lot of layups in this one and just had a bad offensive game overall. But although I thought LA's offense was probably the most impressive aspect of this game, I mean, just the shot making, it was a ridiculous display. I did think their defensive game plan was very effective and was well executed. They mixed in a little bit of zone, and OKC actually did fine against the zone. When Shai was on the floor, they had 11 points on 7 possessions against the zone. But what they consistently did was sit in all of those gaps whenever SGA has the ball, help very aggressively, and basically just take away any easy driving lanes for him so he can't get all the way downhill. I thought that Shai was actually great as a playmaker, making them pay with the right reads and the right passes for dedicating so much defensive attention and loading up the paint like that. And I thought that Shai was excellent as a shot maker in this game. Like, they're forcing him into a little bit more of a mid-range heavy shot diet, but he was phenomenal from the mid-range, and even on a couple of tough drives, like just a pair of ridiculous finishes in this game where you just see his combination of length and his control of the ball, the English, so impressive. So I actually thought that Shai was quite good, all things considered. He had 26 points, 9 assists, just 1 turnover, 52% shooting from the field. He just didn't get to the line a single time in this game, and I thought honestly had a pretty tough whistle. I thought he got fouled on a couple drives in the third quarter, and neither one was called.
I didn't like Oklahoma City's whistle like at all during this game. I thought in all phases.
I would agree. I also thought that J-Dub needs to finish better, but it looked like there was a drive or two where he got fouled. But also just like other guys need to make shots around Shai. I thought that he did a good job of attacking a coverage that was designed to take away his own easy offense. He's getting you the right looks. You just have to make those shots. And that's where it's like, can I call this result fake? I don't know. The Lakers were the better team, but is it like a long-term concern for me when the number one three-point shooting team by percentage in 2025 has one really bad three-point shooting game, and the Lakers, who are a good shooting team, have one insane, like historic shooting half and overall great shooting performance? I'm not going to panic about that and overreact to that in this one-game sample size. I do think one of the offensive concerns that I'm seeing a lot of people bring up for OKC in this game was J-Dub's performance, because that's been a question for this team end to end. It was a question last year. Can he be the consistent second creator this team needs him to be if they want to make a deep playoff run and win the title? Can he carry the non-Shai minutes? And this was a bad game by him. I thought that he really struggled to create any sort of advantage, particularly when he was matched up with Vando, who is just such a phenomenal perimeter defender. And like I said, he forced some tough finishes on some drives and really was not efficient as a scorer whatsoever. And he does have to be better than this, obviously, if they want to win the title. He does have to be more consistent. But I also think that there's just this dynamic with OKC where every time anything goes wrong, it's like the biggest story in the NBA. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of Boston last year, actually. And like, people just hyper fixate on, oh, this is the one thing that could go wrong for them. But it's like, over his last 25 games, J-Dub's giving you 22.5 points, 5 boards, 5 assists on 60% true shooting. He's been playing really well for an extended stretch since he broke out of that shooting slump that he was in earlier in the year. The offense was really struggling in the minutes without Shai early in the season. And post All-Star break, they've actually been really good in those minutes when J-Dub is out there without Shai. So I'm just not going to overreact to that either. Like, it's one bad game. The Thunder are capable of playing bad games. They're allowed to play a bad game. I do think the discourse after this game that I've seen does reflect the fact that a lot of people, I think, are looking for those reasons to doubt OKC. I would say, let's see how the rematch goes on Tuesday before we're drawing any conclusions much bigger than that about their struggles in this individual game.
I think that's a pretty level-headed way to look at it. I mean, I'm not really surprised at the reaction just because it's the Lakers. It's the number one team in the West.
Because Kason Wallace, and Gromit come here and palm it. Don't matter. Lakers in five.
Yeah, man. I'm not surprised at the reaction, but I do think the Lakers kind of give you a glimpse into what that recipe would look like again in a single series. I think you're going to have to generate I think you're going to have to shoot the hell out of the ball. I think I would be looking to spray from behind the arc. I think it's easier to shoot on Oklahoma City than it is trying to get in the teeth of the defense and making things happen. Like, this is a really good defense at collapsing in those driving lanes and forcing turnovers. And so when you're not even giving them an opportunity, right? I thought LA did a really good job of switching Chet and Hardenstein out and picking on those guys more when they're on the perimeter, getting those switches. But also, like I said, just not getting downhill. I feel like that plays into against Oklahoma City and what they want to do because they have so many guys that are good at forcing turnovers and getting rid of the ball. But again, to me, this feels like an aberration where if we're looking at a 7-game series, it's just hard for me to imagine all of these factors coming together in 4 separate games for Oklahoma City to get bounced in a fashion this ugly. The West is so damn strong, Carson. I don't even know, man. I'm more close to, like, this is just the wild, wild West than anything else. Like, Oklahoma City's my favorite, but every team is so damn good out there. But
so you feel like loop OKC into the group of it being the wild, wild West? Okay.
They're still in my tier 1, and they're separated from every other team.
Yeah.
But every other team is so good. It's like I can imagine Oklahoma City dropping 2 or 3 games. I can, envision it being a close series. But, again, there's isolated things in this game that I think are anomalies. It starts with the lackadaisical defensive effort, and it also starts with the outlier three-point shooting from LA. So it's just, I think people are going to react like this. I think Oklahoma City's the new kids on the block. I think people want to find a chink in the armor, want to be able to say this is why they're going to go down. I don't know, man. I'm just not there. I think that I trust J-Dub more. I trust Chet more. I think this team is way better than last year. I think they addressed the biggest issues that sunk their boat last season, and I think people want something to talk about right now, man. I think people are going to pile on. I have a lot more confidence in Oklahoma City that this is not going to happen over a 7-game series.
Yeah, I honestly think that this game has very little to do with OKC and really shouldn't impact your opinion. I think it says more just about how good the Lakers can be at their best.
And I think JJ Redick had a really good game plan on both sides of the ball for Oklahoma City. Like, their execution was flawless, they were so deliberate and they were just focused on the details in this game. They kept screening. Like, it seemed like it was a point of emphasis, pulling those right-wing threes, getting those handoffs in that exact
let's not
spot.
Get political, Logan.
I didn't even do that on purpose. They seemed like they had a really good game plan for Oklahoma City, and I thought they executed really well. And they just played better. They were a better team in this game. I can't deny that.
JJ's a great coach for sure. I do think that if we were to see this matchup over a full series, OKC is going to have to live with switching defensively, because you mentioned Luka was able to take advantage of a lot of those possessions where Hartenstein and Chet switched out onto him, but a vast majority of that was with tough shot making. It was with step back threes over the top of them.
Yeah.
Especially Chet was getting great contests consistently. I just think that you have to live with making him beat you as a scorer at this point, because Luka was phenomenal in this game. I mean, he was absolutely nails. He was fantastic, but we've seen him be inconsistent as a scorer in LA. We've seen him struggle at times to punish switching by getting by people and be very reliant on his pull-up shooting, which can be inconsistent. So if I have to make the choice between living with one of my bigs who I feel actually guard pretty well in space and trying to get those guys to force Luka to beat them one-on-one with tough shot making, compared to sending a panicked double as they did a few times after Luka had been cooking them, but again, mostly just with really phenomenal shot making. If you send that second defender at Luka, he's going to pick you apart. And this isn't last year's Dallas team, where obviously OKC was crazy aggressive on Luka and Kyrie with blitzing every pick and roll and consistently sending 2 defenders at them and saying, Derrick Jones Jr., PJ Washington, make shots. It's not Derrick Jones Jr. anymore. Now it's Rui Hachimura, who's been one of the best catch and shooters in basketball. It's Gabe Vincent, who's a really good three-point shooter. It's DFS, who's a 40% three-point shooter. Or it's Austin Reeves. Like, there's just too much shooting around Luka and LeBron to be sending two defenders at them. And I do think that for both of them at this point, their passing is their absolute superpower, more so even than their scoring, because, like, LeBron also, when they were switching Cason Wallace, Caruso onto him, like, yeah, he made some great shots. He's not just, like, walking to the rim. He's shooting tough turnarounds over them. That's better than a wide open three for a great catch and shooter or an easy look at the rim for somebody. And I do think that, like, also they can play Luka better off the switches, especially Hartenstein. I don't know why he's picking up Luka 35 plus feet out. Like, you're kind of begging to get beaten off the bounce at that point. You know that he's going to target you. And maybe Hartenstein is the defensive weak point for OKC in this matchup. And maybe they do kind of have to take him off the floor more so they feel really comfortable switching all the way 1 through 5. But regardless, I just think that is the strategy for them. And, like, this was a special Luka game as a scorer, but I am going to make him prove that he can do that consistently because he hasn't been doing that as consistently in LA, whereas with the passing, I know that he's going to kill you every time.
Well, I think that's the appeal of adding an Isaiah Hartenstein, is because it gives you that positional versatility that we've been talking about that's so important in specific matchups, right? Against Denver, you would want to run that Chet and Hartenstein look because you need two big bodies to match up with Jokic in the paint. In this matchup, I think that if it makes more sense, do that. You're not giving up a ton of size. Like, LA's a feisty rebounding team. They're going to try hard on the glass, but they don't have a ton of size. So it's like, I don't think you're getting bullied by anybody on that team. And if you need to make that adjustment, I want to go back to the point you just made about Luka, though. With these all-time players, sometimes it really is a pick your poison sort of deal. And I think you're exactly right, Carson, because it's like, if you give him the lane, what is Luka going to do? We've watched it for 6 years now. He's so strong now. He's going to beat a guy down right to that little elbow spot. He's going to work to his little touch shot that's easy every time, and he's going to make it. And if you're asking me what I would rather settle for, Luka, take all the step-back threes over my 7-footer that you want. Yes. Those are hard shots, and shots that, if you look at his stats over, since he got to L.A., there are shots that he hasn't been making, right? I think he's looked a little bit better, but on the whole, he's not the Luka that I think he was like last year. I still think this is a step down from the Luka that he was in the playoffs even last year, beat up. Like, I don't think he's at peak Luka level, and I would tend to live with those shots in a series than just give him, like you said, man, you're blitzing too. You're gifting the Lakers points. You just can't do that against two players like Luka and LeBron. You can't give them freebies, and I felt like Oklahoma City gave him a lot in this game.
My opinion after last year was that Luka was an even better passer than a scorer. And with the guy who he's been in LA as a scorer, where it's like 27 a game on 56% true, he's shooting 48% on two-pointers. Like, I don't even think it's close. I think he's a way better passer than he is a scorer. But he's still capable of these sort of nuclear scoring performances. And this is why I can't quit the Lakers, man. When they come with a good defensive game plan and they engage defensively and you get the best version of Luka, they're still so damn good. They have that elite superstar superpower, and then they have great shooting around them. And if they can be a solid team defense, they are really hard to beat. So that's why we had Tyler, Hoop Venue, on our last show, and he was saying, like, do you guys all agree that the 2 through 4 in the West are the Clippers and the Warriors and the Timberwolves? And I was like, I just don't know if I can quit the Lakers, man. I can't put the Timberwolves above them, I'll tell you that. I don't trust their offense enough. But it's just going to hinge on what level Luka's at and what level they can get to defensively. And this was a really good performance for them on both of those fronts. There was another team that had a really good weekend, Logan, and that is the Houston Rockets, who just cannot lose right now. They've been on an absolute heater. They've pulled away from the pack for the 2 seed, and they beat both the Thunder and the Warriors this past weekend. What did you take away from their impressive weekend?
I'm so impressed with Houston, man. Like, I like that they don't let any of that noise affect them, man. Houston don't listen to none of that nonsense. I really like Ime Udoka too. I think he's a good coach for young teams. But I was really impressed with what they did against Golden State and their big three, specifically Steph Curry. They held Steph to 3 points on 1 of 10 from the field, 1 of 8 from deep with 4 turnovers. The Warriors' big three as a whole together, Steph, Jimmy, and Dre, 18 points, 6 of 20 from the field with 9 turnovers. Remember, this is also a game from Golden State in which B-Pods, who has been balling recently, gave you 19, and Buddy gave you 20 points on 6 of 11 shooting. When the supporting cast does that for Golden State, when you get any performance from 2 supporting members of the cast for Golden State, that should be a game that they win. Like, shout out Looney for how he battled on the glass. I think he would be imperative in a hypothetical series against Houston. I think they need him to match them on the glass, and he's really important. But they dogged the Stars in Golden State, and that's the thing with Houston. I think they can disrupt the opposing team's superstar almost as good as anybody in the NBA, especially if they're perimeter-oriented. Making life hard on SGA in Oklahoma City when they played. They got a rock-solid identity. They are all heart, all tenacity, and that's the thing with Houston, man, because we've been critical, Carson, and I don't look at Houston as a drastically different team. I don't doubt that Houston has the talent and is capable of winning a playoff series. I think they're there because they have serious advantages that they can exert over other teams. Size and athleticism, effort, energy, hustle, heart, just generating extra possessions. This is stuff we've talked about all year long with Houston. It is the hallmark, the bedrock of this basketball team. They are 4th in defensive rating. They're 2nd in defensive rating post-All-Star break. They're number 1 in rebounds per game and number 1 in rebound rate. They're number 1 in offensive rebounds per game and offensive rebound rate. I mentioned what they did defensively against Golden State. On the glass against Oklahoma City, they big body them 48-33 in total rebounds, and they beat Oklahoma City 14-7 on the offensive glass. It's like, I know what I'm getting from Houston. The variable to me is still the exact same. The playoff series victory in a deep playoff run is contingent on the consistency of Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun on offense. And when they can give it to you, I think Houston can beat anybody in the league. Oklahoma City, you get 34 from Jalen Green, you get 31 from Sengun. Boom! I ain't got to worry about the offense. We're dogging the other team. Against Golden State, Jalen Green, I felt like, not like Nostradamus because Jalen Green does this every other game, but last episode I mentioned Jalen Green can just rip off 10, 12-point stretches by himself at times. In the fourth quarter against Golden State, had 10 straight. It's like they are capable, they are talented, they can do it. It's the consistency of it is what I'm still skeptical about with Houston. It's not a talent thing, man. It's just the reliability of that offense. And so, Carson, if I can get this level from Jalen Green consistently, I'm not worried about Houston. Right? Like, if they get that, they're going to be a team that could go on a deep playoff run. The biggest question about him is answered. It's just that one red flag. But we've said it, they're not going to be an easy out. Like, these are things that make you hard to beat. And if you can't match them on the glass, Houston could very well dog a soft-ass team.
Yeah. This was like the best possible version of the Rockets, what we saw over the weekend, because you mentioned you're getting a really good version offensively of Jalen Green and Sengun. You are getting a dominant overall defensive showing, and you're just dominating the possession game. You're dominating on the glass, and that's what the Rockets do at an unbelievable level. They are historically great on the offensive glass. They had 30 offensive boards over these 2 games, and they were plus 18 on the glass overall. So that is something that is really important to acknowledge, because I do have major concerns about the Rockets' half-court offense that I bring up a lot. But they are an outlier in their ability to just generate more chances for themselves than you. And you don't need to be as efficient if you're just getting more chances. So that is a real major advantage of theirs. And then defensively, Thompson is just one of the best on the planet. And My God, Logan, I love him so much, but what an incredible weekend this was from him. Some of the plays that he made across these two games are just absolutely absurd. Saving plays at the rim as a shot blocker, blowing up a lob pass to Jimmy Butler from an angle that just shouldn't have been possible, stealing an inbound from Steph and then somehow saving it to a teammate and blanketing Steph off ball for extended stretches. He also had a block in the Thunder game on SGA on a pull-up jumper that was just insane. And like the possession before that, he made a pull-up jumper super hard on him. It's just absurd, the athleticism that he has at his size with his instincts and with his motor. He's just a one-of-a-kind defensive monster, and I always say one-of-a-kind with him, even though Asar is very similar in a lot of ways, especially defensively. But they're just two total outlier freak talents. And Amen has just been the Rockets' best player, man. He just is their best player. I understand a lot of people will look to Şengün with the elite defensive value that he is bringing you, the elite versatility, the elite perimeter defense, the elite rim protection, the elite on-ball defense, the elite off-ball defense, the elite transition defense, the elite rebounding as a wing. While offensively, in his 41 games as a starter, Amen is averaging 16, 9, and 5 on 60% true shooting with 3.3 stocks per game. He's just the most impactful player on winning for this team, and he still has so much room for growth. He's going to be an all-star next year. Stamp it. And if they were going to give an all-star to the Rockets this year, I get it that he wasn't playing quite as much at the start of the year, but Şengün just didn't deserve it. And like Amen has been their best player in totality this year, but he is just a testament to their other superpower along with their rebounding, which is that they can overwhelm you athletically and they can overwhelm you defensively. I also think Fred VanVleet, so impressive. His ability to just stay attached to Steph off ball. Such an incredibly smart defensive player and one of the best defenders ever at his size. So like collectively their defensive versatility and athleticism is absolutely insane. And you saw that in this one. My concern with them remains the half-court offense. And I can acknowledge the things that they do at an incredibly high level. I still just don't think that I can bet on one of the worst half-court offenses in the league, which is what they are. They're like a 20th percentile half-court offense, winning a playoff series in a conference that is so damn good. This is a rule that I live by in the playoffs. I do not bet on bad half-court offenses, and maybe they could be the exception because we're talking about a lot of the teams that we've seen walk into the playoffs with bad half-court offenses in recent years and then underperform. But like the fact that the Rockets win the possession game so convincingly so often could be the difference maker. It could, but it still doesn't override the concern I have just about who is manufacturing the clutch offense. If the game does slow down a bit, who is consistently getting you those quality shots? Is the shot making good enough? Is the offensive decision making good enough when you're looking at a team that has these established offensive superstars and elite shooting? Because that's what you're running into, probably even in a first round series. That's why I'm going to remain lower on Houston than the consensus. And like Rockets fans, if you guys go out there and you win a playoff series against a team that I picked to beat you, or you make the conference finals, like throw rocks at me, I think that you would be obviously totally entitled to be furious with me because I understand I have doubted this team within the context of this season, and they've been so impressive. They're beating everybody right now, but I'm going to continue to doubt them big picture until I see them overcome what I consider to be the biggest flaw that any team can have going into the playoffs.
It is the biggest flaw, but I mean, like you said, they do have superpowers and stuff that they hang their hat on.
And they're going to be hell to play. They are going to
Dude,
suck to play.
The thing that I'm glad you bring up VanVleet because it really is crazy when you watch VanVleet, Amen, and Brooks. The word I would use with Houston is just pressure. They apply pressure. They never let you get comfortable. And
of course, Tari Eason, too.
Yeah, dude. They just swarm you the whole game. They swallow you up. They put you in a box, and it's hard when nothing's easy. It's like the one thing that blew my mind was when I watched Steph airball that three. I think Looney was on the court. I think Looney set him like a little like pin down screen at the right on the right wing, and Steph curled around. It was pretty open, and they recover decently, but it's still a pretty uncontested shot for Steph, and Steph airballs it, and I'm like, you just don't see that. Like, sure, Steph will miss a three. Steph takes hard shots every single game. Sometimes he's on, he'll make all of them. Sometimes he's off, he'll miss some. He airballed on a shot that wasn't tipped. It was just contested. Like, when you can make Steph Curry that uncomfortable, like that speaks volumes to me. Like, they had him, I won't say rattled, but they had him working, and he couldn't get anything
Very
going.
uncomfortable.
And so when I look at some of these hypothetical matchups, and I don't want to get deep into any of them because of how close, like, every team has 46 or 47 wins right now. So
That's insane.
there's no telling who is going to play Houston. Golden State, I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for Golden State. I mean, you just saw how hard they made life on this team. Like, Houston's got real advantages against them. Memphis, I think I might pick Houston to beat them just because I like their identity more, and I think they have similar struggles when it comes to that half-court offense. So I don't want to get too much into any of these battles, but I think regardless of who plays Houston, I would give Houston a punching chance, and I would say it's going to go 6 or 7 games. This team's going to fight and claw and scratch, and they just got motor, man. They got a V8, V12,
For sure.
V16. They got a max motor, man. They never give up.
Insane athletes on the perimeter. Insane collective rim protection. Like, they're one of the best perimeter defenses and one of the best interior defenses. They're one of the best transition defenses in basketball. And like you said, man, they bring hell to you. They are as fiery as any team defensively. They do apply that next level pressure, and they forced a Steph Curry clunker, man. And I do want to talk about that aspect of the Warriors-Rockets game for a bit, because the Warriors had themselves a hell of a weekend where they're reeling off 3 straight super impressive wins over Memphis, the Lakers, and then Denver. And then they come back to earth with the offense just getting really shut down like it did against Houston. And like, Steph, for the entire stretch since Jimmy joined the team, 23 games, was averaging 28.5 points per game on 67% true shooting. He was looking like a top 4 player on the planet. And then he has this game where he gives you 3 points on 1 of 10 shooting. The Warriors' whole offense only scores 96 points. I will say it's phenomenal defense by the Rockets, and they are doing everything they can to keep Steph from beating them as a scorer. They are blitzing every pick and roll, so the Warriors had as many 4-on-3s as they wanted in this game. They are blanketing Steph off ball again, so people have an opportunity to attack while all eyes are on him away from the ball. So, like, the Warriors as a team just weren't able to capitalize on that enough against a defense that is so fast and athletic as the Rockets. And with some of the limitations of the Warriors supporting offensive pieces, but I also think even though they were so devoted singularly to stopping Steph as a scorer, like, you do see that Steph's scoring floor against a team that has these sort of elite athletes who are defending him maliciously like this, like, that scoring floor is low now, man. He's got a 2-point game this year. He's got a 3-point game this year. He had a 2-point game last year, and that just scares me a bit because I don't trust the Warriors' offense around him to pick up the slack and to consistently punish teams for basically doing everything they can to take away Steph as a scorer. Like, Jimmy Butler's 7 field goal attempts is just not going to cut it in a playoff game if you have a team devoting so much attention to Steph like that. He's got to step up at some point with the scoring volume. And, like, I get it, it's the regular season. We've praised him a million times for doing all the little things. At some point, he has to be that second star scorer for this team, and it hasn't happened. But maybe it's just Brandon Podziemski, Logan. Maybe he's the second star because, my God, he has been so good. He looks so comfortable right now. He is shooting at an elite clip, and that is really good news for the Warriors. But I just still have that lingering concern about what does their offense look like outside of Steph if he can't be a superhero. And for 23 games with Jimmy, he was a superhero basically every night, and they were winning basically every single game. And then you get a reminder that, like, this is still possible, and it's just kind of like a cold bucket of water on your head, because I was feeling amazing about the Dubs after the Nuggets game. I was like, this team is humming in every possible way, and then you see the floor, and that is still something of a concern for me.
B-Pod kills me, man. You can tell he ain't had a ton of big games, bro. The Nuggets one, when he hit that shrug, bro, I wanted to crawl out of my skin. I cringed so hard, bro.
How? He couldn't miss. he could not miss.
Dude, I've also thought about it long and hard. We had that question on the mailbag a long time ago. Dude, Brandon Podziemski is 100% my NBA comp. Like, it's not even a thought
Hell
to me.
yeah.
How streaky he is.
Quirked up white boy.
Streaky scorer, lefty.
Lefty. Yep.
Scoring probably isn't his first skill set. Like, I was thinking about it. It's like, I just think, I don't know, man. Literally think that's my, well, he's just got too much hair, but that's like my perfect NBA comp.
Damn.
He's been balling, though, dude. He's been
well.
balling uncontrollably.
But that is the thing. Like, even though he followed up the crazy games against the Lakers and the Nuggets with another really good game, he played really well against Houston. Like, the Warriors' two biggest wins of the year, probably against LA and Denver, also happened to be Pod's two best games of the year. So that's why I was like, this is amazing. But also, what do we do with the fact that Pods is giving him 28 points and 26 points in back-to-back games and isn't missing? Because even though he's, for a long stretch, been playing way better than he was at the beginning of the year, you obviously can't expect that from him night to night. So I feel like the Warriors' ceiling is crazy high when everything is going right. And then I also feel like their floor is lower than some of these other teams who are in a comparable range.
I agree. I think that's due to the fact that this is a limited athletic team overall, like with some of their certain lineups, right? If it's Steph on the floor, if it's Podziemski, if it's Buddy Hield, right? These really skilled guys. None of them are high-end athletes.
Often without a center.
Exactly. If you're running Quentin Post or you're running Looney, right? Looney's an actual physical.
Athletic centers either way.
Exactly. They might be physical presences at the least, but they're not athletes. And so I think that's a real big limitation. The team is super skilled, though. If they can get hot, right, this is a team that does have shooting, just not a ton of isolation creators, guys that can do it by themselves on ball. It's just Steph going to work. And so I think you're right, man. I don't know. I think it could be a mixed bag all playoffs long. I'm hoping for better, but it could just be up and down, man. Golden State seems like they could be a really hot and cold team. And I think I was wrong last episode, man. I was talking about – you brought up a point about the Warriors supporting cast and how you thought that was the biggest question mark about this team. And I think I was quick to brush that under the rug. I think that is the biggest question mark about this team, man. And it's not one guy. I think it's everybody. I think it's Kuminga in filling in and doing his job because I think they desperately need Kuminga to give them good minutes.
Really?
I think they need that kind of athlete on the field, on the court, in some of these matchups. Like,
interesting.
I think that they need Moody to give them good defense and shooting. I think they need Buddy in his minutes to spray. I just think they don't need anybody to go above and beyond, but they need everybody to pull their weight. And I think that if anybody leaves them short, it could be enough for the other team, man. It's just going to be how much can they get out of them and how reliable the star is going to be. Golden State just is a big variable, man. I don't know what to make of them, man.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, when your entire team changes at the deadline and then you have the best record in the NBA basically from that point forward, but the schedule's lighter. Brandon Podziemski turns into Michael Jordan 2.0. I think that Pods is probably the most important player for them. I think that his consistency offensively is vital because when he's an elite shooter, like, you feel pretty good about his ability to capitalize on the looks created for him.
You know, without the rock and working to space off ball.
Like I always say, man, he does all the little things all the time. It's just the scoring that comes and goes. But when it's going, he is so good. On the Kuminga point, I honestly just lean towards, like, don't play him that much in the playoffs. I just think it's asking a lot for him to suddenly become a more consistent, better basketball player with better feel, with better IQ. Like, all the same things that have always been the problem with Kuminga: the shot selection, the basketball IQ, the shot making, the scoring efficiency, the consistency on the defensive end in terms of effort. Like, they're all still the same problems. He just doesn't get it. He just doesn't fit. And there are moments and there are games where he does. But, like, I'm not using the playoffs as the period to be like, all right, Johnny, let's see what you got. I think it's fine to play him 20-plus minutes a night in this final stretch of the regular season just to see what he has in him, but I'm not an optimist about the role that he's going to play for the Warriors in this playoff run. And no, I don't think that they necessarily need him. I see what you're saying about the athleticism, but I do think they're starting five. They're pretty fast. Dre and Jimmy are just such a fearsome defensive duo that, like, I just don't think Kuminga really does anything positive outside of his athleticism on the basketball court. Like, I just think there's a whole lot of negatives around that. And that's what's so frustrating about him. He has so much raw physical ability, but so little else, honestly.
Theoretical Kuminga's a monster, man.
Oh, for sure, dude. Who's scoring big in the NBA this season? You are, with all the new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From monster slams to dishing the rock to cleaning the glass, get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props.
Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like picking how many points your favorite player will have. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. First timers, here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly.
Take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NERDS. That's code NERDS for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. The Dubs did get one big win over the weekend, though, and that was over the Denver Nuggets, who everybody's beating right now. They've lost 4 straight. They're slipping in the standings. There was a time where it looked like they very well could be the 2 seed, and now they are right in that group in the 4 through 8 range, who are separated by a total of half a game, which is insane, unprecedented. What needs to change for Denver to make some playoff noise?
Well, when we're talking about Denver in this last stretch, over the last 4 games, they have lost 4 straight. Over that, they're 19th in offensive rating, 23rd in defensive rating, and 21st in net rating. I think you got to mention that they got to get their rotation right. They haven't had Jamal Murray for the entire stretch. They didn't play any of their starters against the Spurs.
Yeah.
Against Minnesota, they were shorthanded too without a lot of starters. So I think that's important.
Didn't have MPJ for that game.
Yeah, I think that's important to preface. First thing I can say is play some damn defense. I don't know, man. I'm just disappointed. I've been waiting for this defensive switch to click with Denver all damn year, and it's just not going to happen, I don't think. Like, I keep waiting for it's like Denver's in a deep sleep on defense, and I just keep waiting for them to pop up out of bed and snap out their dream. Jokic is sometimes a serious defensive liability at the 5, especially on an island versus teams with good perimeter shooting. Outside of him, because I think sometimes he can get too much blame. The whole team is just apathetic at times. Because it hasn't changed with Denver on offense. I know they've been on a bit of a skid, but I trust Jokic and this team to generate really good offense. I think the defense has just been piss poor. That being said, I don't know where you stand, Carson. I'm kind of ready to punt on Denver in the big picture with this season. I think we have seen serious regression from this title team. I think opponents have figured out a better game plan and not figured them out. You don't figure Nikola Jokic out, but I think they have figured out ways to work around them, how to exploit their defense, how to limit them a little bit offensively. And I think their flaws have come to light, specifically the defense, the depth, the offensive limitations around Jokic, and the lack of volume three-point shooting. And so I don't have any big expectations anymore for Denver, man. I'm as well-rounded as some of these other teams are in the Western Conference. I'm moving closer to Denver is closer to the bottom of the playoff teams in the West than the top, or at least around the middle. Mm-hmm. One, I always think this is important to say with Denver, and I guess I got to cover all my bases. Jokic is such a problem that in a playoff series, I couldn't count Denver out from winning because if they don't have the opposing team doesn't have the defensive personnel, I could see Jokic just big dogging the other team. That being said, I could also see this defense being poor enough and the supporting cast being poor enough that they could get bounced in the first round. So I think Denver's a double-edged sword, but I don't think they're going on a deep playoff run. I don't think they're going to the Western Conference Finals. And I increasingly, we talked about this on a multitude of our last episodes, I'm ready to focus on next year with this team.
Yeah.
I don't think they have the defensive personnel around Jokic, and that's kind of the biggest, harshest reality that I'm thinking about with Denver is they just need to build up the defense around Jokic. He is a liability at the 5 spot. or maybe not like necessarily like a complete liability, but he's not a strength.
He
So
has big limitations that you
that's
need
a
to be able to
that's a
compensate
that's
for.
a much better way of putting it. And
And they do not have the personnel to compensate for
they
it.
need to compensate more for it. And I think that starts with trading MPJ. And Carson and I have floated a lot of ideas over the past few episodes. If it's getting an Andrew Wiggins, right? If it's getting a package deal to get one of these defensive oriented wings. I am increasingly moving further and further away from this team is really close to the title to this team needs to make some major moves in the offseason.
I think you hit the nail on the head towards the end there with just the unconscious shift that I've gone through from being somebody who's defended Denver all year, who said this can absolutely be the second best team in the West. They just need Jamal to be fully right. They just need to play up to their defensive potential. I've gone from that to thinking, okay, how does this team improve in the offseason? Because clearly major changes are needed and the season isn't over yet. So I think that tells you a lot about how I feel about their chances to make a deep playoff run. And like maybe they could still make the conference finals with the right matchups, with just an absolutely nuclear offensive run. But the thing is, they have to be perfect offensively because the defense is that bad right now. And I don't think you can expect the defense to get better at this point in the year. So that is what is so deeply concerning. You can look at a couple of these losses and weirdly, like clutch offensive breakdowns have been part of it. Obviously, you have the Russ disastrous gaffe against the Timberwolves. And then this Pacers game, like just a number of horrible passes down the stretch. MPJ kind of forces one to Jokic that Hallie makes a really good play on and steals. And then Jalen Pickett just totally misses Jokic on like a very simple close range entry pass. And then they're just disorganized on their last real offensive possession. Christian Brown, instead of coming over top, taking a handoff from Jokic, just like runs under and into him. And then Jokic is kind of off balance and he just like throws the ball away, trying to get it to Russ. So like they've had some really bad execution in the clutch offensively, but that's outlier stuff to me. This is a top 3 clutch offense this year. It was a top 3 clutch offense last year. You get Jamal on the floor. That doesn't worry me, but it has cost them a couple of these really important games. But it's the defense that is so troubling. And I saw a couple of great stats about this past game against Indiana and just how bad the Nuggets defense was from 2 great follows on Twitter. First one, shout out Caitlin Cooper, who is probably the best person I've seen at covering a single team. She covers the Pacers. Indiana scored 1.29 points per chance when Tyrese Halliburton passed out of blitz coverage against Denver. So just absolutely picking the Nuggets apart in 4-on-3s. They are such a good collective passing team. They're phenomenal at capitalizing on those advantages. And Denver is really, really bad at defending 4-on-3s, in spite of the fact that they put 2 on the ball basically every possession out of pick and roll. Jason Timpf, our good friend, tweeted out that Denver allowed 26 unguarded catch and shoot jumpers to Indiana. That's the second highest total Indiana has generated all season. So like you're just bleeding wide open looks. And this has been a consistent problem for them because they bring Jokic up to the level every time. They have to do that because he's a bad drop defender. Honestly, one of the worst drop defensive bigs in the league. And he can't switch. He doesn't have that sort of foot speed versatility on the perimeter. And your point of attack defense sucks. Your screen navigation sucks. And the Nuggets also suck at defending 4-on-3s. So they've been able to defend better within this scheme in years past, but they've just completely fallen off a cliff this year. I do think that the loss of KCP has been devastating, and they just have no defensive versatility. Like they have to try to execute a scheme that they are bad at, basically regardless of matchup. And I just don't see how that improves. I mean, I cannot think of a player who you could argue has been like a legitimate positive defensively in their whole starting 5 this year. Even Aaron Gordon, I think, is at his worst defensive seasons in years. Christian Brown, I was optimistic about defensively, but he's been a huge drop-off from KCP, definitely bigger than I even expected. And I was expecting a drop-off because I did think KCP was such a great defensive guard last year. So this is what they're walking into, man, a postseason where you don't expect them to be able to defend anybody, and they're just going to have to be like all-time great offensively to win series, which they're capable of. But that means Jamal has to be healthy, which he's not right now, and he has to be very good. That means Christian Brown, MPJ, Aaron Gordon all have to be shooting really well, and Brown has been shooting quite well as of late. Aaron Gordon has had a career shooting season, has taken a leap there. MPJ has been on and off at times, but like I think people overstate some of like his shooting inconsistencies and like blame him too much for that when he's 40% from deep. He's still an elite shooter. And then you know that Jokic is going to do his thing. And like, in spite of the fact that they've lost the last 3 games that he's played in, he's been unbelievable offensively. Like, he's having the greatest offensive season ever, and there's an argument this is the best 3-game stretch of offense he's had this entire season. 45, 12, and 11 on 73% true shooting. Like, 60-point triple-double against the Timberwolves, 15 points in the first quarter against the Warriors. And then there was the stretch in the third where he was just firing threes and made 3 triples in like very short succession. And then he had 20 in the first quarter against the Pacers. Like, he's playing at that all-time offensive level. Their defense is just so bad. And that's why you have to make perimeter defense by far your number 1 priority this offseason. Perimeter defense, and also just like collective athleticism and speed on the wings, guys who can make plays on the back end, guys who can be more effective in rotation and guarding some of those 4-on-3s. The whole perimeter defense just needs to get way better. And the reason that I'm like at this point radicalized to the position of trade MPJ 100% is when Jokic is on the floor without MPJ, the Nuggets have a 126 offensive rating. Over the last 3 years, when Jokic is on the floor without MPJ, they have a +9 relative offensive rating. That's like one of the best offenses in NBA history. That's what they do with Jokic without MPJ on the floor. And that very clearly indicates to me, as does everything over the last 5 years. I mean, if you think back to the 2022 season when Jokic is out there without both MPJ and Murray for basically that entire year, like, he can create all-time great offensive results even with inferior supporting talent offensively, because he's the best offensive player that we've ever seen. But he has major limitations and issues defensively. That's why you need to sacrifice some offensive talent around him to go all in on your defense and go all in on your depth, because you're going to be a great offense. Jokic is going to make you a great offense, but you're not a complete team right now. You're a team that's A+ on one side of the ball and a D on the other, and you're not going to win a title like that.
Who are you willing to sacrifice in the offseason? What rotation pieces and assets are you willing to move off of?
MPJ. I mean, I think that he's obviously like the most tradable, even though he's on a big contract. I still think that Jamal is really, really important to their formula. And he's been playing so well offensively since his bad start to the year. I'm keeping him. Aaron Gordon, I still think, is an excellent complement to Jokic offensively, especially with this improved shooting. And defensively, I think, has a higher ceiling than what he's shown throughout this year. Christian Brown is like such a great complement to Jokic offensively and just a really good basketball player. I'm not moving him while he's on his rookie deal for sure. And also, they just need somebody at the 2 spot right now desperately. So, like, it's MPJ who I'm dangling out there. And then if somebody's like, hey, you need to give me Peyton Watson to make this deal work, if it's a really good deal, like, I could see them making that move, although Peyton Watson does help their depth, and he does definitely help their defense with his athleticism. So I'd be fully focused on just, hey, what can we get back for MPJ? And we'll take a lesser offensive player, and ideally we would be able to get back like a starting wing and then also a depth piece so we can address multiple needs at once. But MPJ is still really talented. He is. I mean, he's an insane shooter. He's a really good offensive player. They just don't need that offense. It's like superfluous at this point when they're great offensively with him off the floor and they're desperately needing defensive athleticism and talent.
I wish the Nuggets could get somebody like DFS or somebody like that, like a really, really high
I was just
level.
thinking, man. I mean, he would make them a better basketball team. If they swapped MPJ straight up for DFS, they'd be a better basketball team today. Which is crazy when you think about what they were able to do in the title run, but the defense has just regressed so much since then, and now they desperately need to get more athletic. and they don't need MPJ's offense, even though I still think he's a phenomenal offensive fit alongside Jokic. I really do. They just can't be dedicating $40 million to a player who is as limited as he is and who you feel like you can supplement a good bit of the offensive value and then get way more defensive value for a cheaper price. Like, I really just feel like prioritizing depth around Jokic should be your philosophy in general. Defense and depth, man, because he elevates everybody. So you don't need to be super invested in a ton of guys, paying a number of guys $40 million if you feel like you can replicate their value in the aggregate.
Good defenders and spot-up shooters. And
yeah, man. And you're going to be really, really good. And the Nuggets did not execute that formula this year whatsoever. So they can still do something in the playoffs, but I just feel worse and worse about them as time goes along. I want to ask you something that was on my mind today, Logan. It's about great defense, unlike what the Denver Nuggets have been doing this year. Who do you think has been the most valuable non-big defender in the NBA this season? We're not including Draymond because he basically is a big. I mean, he's been his team's starting center for 20-some games now. I had 3 dudes who came to the top of my mind. Jalen Williams, Amen Thompson, Dyson Daniels. Who would you take? You can go outside of that group if you want, but who do you think has been that best non-big defender this year, the most valuable?
I'd take your baby boy, Amen Thompson.
Thank you very much.
I think
and now I kiss you on the top of your head because you chose right.
Let's go. That's all I wanted. I mean, there's an athletic... a major athletic difference, I think, between Amen and both of these other guys. I also think there's a significant rebounding gap between all of them on the offensive and defensive glass, and that's why I think I prefer Amen. I think Amen is the best athlete out of the bunch, but I also think he has the best versatility defensively and how he can impact the game. You were mentioning earlier against the Warriors just all the plays he blows up. You just shouldn't be able to. Amen does that routinely. Like every single night. I don't know if I've ever seen as good a defender as Amen, like in transition. Like he blows up stuff that should just be like easy buckets for the opposing team. Either if he's slowing the fast break down, if he's actually blocking a shot or forcing a turnover in transition. He's really good there. He's great on ball. He can pick up 94 feet. He can apply elite ball pressure. I think he's a really good off-ball defender in terms of engagement. And I think he can be an impactful rim protector. And so this is no slight at J-Dub or Dyson Daniels. I think, personally, there's a pretty big chasm between Dyson and J-Dub and Amen as well, just because I think there's a significant gap between how impactful Dyson can be as a low man and rim protector. Dyson's a really good on-ball defender and one of the best defensive playmakers at his position, but there's a significant athletic and rim protection gap between the other two guys. And then I still think, even though J-Dub I think is an elite defender, I think there's an athletic and versatility gap between him and Amen. I think Amen's one of the best defenders on the planet today, and he's so impactful in so many different roles. And he's so smart. This is coming off like an Amen Thompson Glaze Fest, but what else do you expect here at Nerd
That's
Sesh,
perfect.
man? I mean, and as we've previously stated, this is a glaze-free zone, so if you don't like it, you can go kick some rocks.
Well, this is a glaze-free zone?
No.
This is definitely a pro-glaze zone.
We are pro-glaze. My fault. We are pro-glaze.
Especially when it comes to Amen. Can I glaze myself in reference to glazing Amen, though?
Sure.
This is a tweet from March 2024, a little over a year ago. Amen Thompson has been blowing me away lately. Has legit best in the world potential in several categories. Settle down, Logan. Overall athleticism, transition offense, perimeter defense, wing rebounding. I mean, dude, we're already talking about him in the conversation for best perimeter defender, best wing rebounder on the planet. And he's doing that in year 2. What an absolute freak. That tweet is going to age like wine. It already is. My choices of men here as well. Dyson, I kind of expected to be the people's choice on this one. And maybe I have a misrepresented Twitter following because maybe I've put together an army of Amen Glazers, but I asked who's the more valuable defensive player, and 72% of people said Amen, 28% said Dyson Daniels. So like the people are rocking with Amen, and I do think that that's correct. And like a lot of it just comes down to positional value. That's why I say who is the most valuable non-big defender, you can only impact the game so much as an elite point of attack guard defender. And you can impact the game a good bit. And Dyson, by far number one in the league in deflections and steals. But when you can provide that high-level perimeter defense and that elite backline defense as a bigger wing who is extremely versatile in terms of the types of players you can guard, who is extremely impactful on the glass, like, I just can't pass that up. And that's what both Amen and J-Dub are. I mean, J-Dub is a really, really strong contender for this title, in my opinion. He's a 94th percentile isolation defender this year. He's 7th in deflections, extremely active, extremely aggressive, phenomenal hands on ball, and blows so many plays up as the low man. Is also up there for the best rim protecting wing in basketball. He's held opposing players 11% below their average at the rim this year. That's like an elite big man number, and he's defended a lot of shots there.
That's better than Mobley.
It's insane. It's insane. Well, chill on my boy Evan Mobley. Listen, comparison is the thief of joy.
Just for context.
No, it's incredible. And there was a stretch of the year where he was actually anchoring the Thunder defense as their center, and they were still a pretty good defense in that stretch. So, like, he does have incredible versatility. He's an incredibly smart defensive player. He's got those freakishly long arms with the 7'2" wingspan. He and Amen bring similar value in a lot of areas. And I do think that he's probably a little bit smarter defensively than Amen at this point. I do think that he reads the game at a really high level, but Amen is still smart and has really good instincts defensively. And then he's just a different level of a freak athlete, man. It's just absolutely insane traits that put him in the conversation for being the best athlete in the history of this game. His lateral quickness, his insane vertical pop, his length at 6'7". So Amen is holding opposing players 10% below their average at the rim. I would say these have been the two best rim protecting wings in basketball this year, while he is also capable of, as we saw, hounding Steph Curry off ball, giving Shai major trouble on ball as an elite point of attack defender there. And J-Dub and Amen both have really great matchup versatility on ball, but I would say that Amen is pretty clearly the more dominant on ball defender, because his ability to overwhelm you athletically is just next level. Like, he's the best on-ball shot blocking wing in basketball. He can just smother you. He does that even to flat out stars where he just destroys them. And he's got the craziest motor of any of the players we're talking about. And he's the best rebounder of this bunch. And he's the best transition defender of this bunch. Absolutely insane there. And, like, he just makes impossible defensive plays. He does. He does things that should not be possible and do not look real. And it's not just like, oh, he's a defensive highlight machine. Like, no, he is so impactful play to play, and he's doing absolutely insane stuff every single game. So he would be my choice. J-Dub is close, but Amen would be my choice. And I think he's got to be first team all defense. Guy's absolutely insane.
I think so, too. I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah. All right. The regular season's almost over, Logan. So we're just going to be talking about the NBA Elite for the rest of the year. We're just going to be talking about the playoffs. But before we get into that mode, I want to take one last chance to talk about the teams who are going to miss out on the big dance this year. If you exclude the Spurs, who I think would obviously be the choice for this question otherwise, which team who's not even going to make the play-in this year, Logan, do you think has the brightest future?
For me, it's pretty simple, and we did a little bit of this thought exercise about a week ago on a friend of the show on the Joel Moran show. A little bit of a this or that. I think it's the Portland Trailblazers. I really like what the Blazers are cooking up. One, I thought they took a really major leap from last season to this season, not a Pistons-level leap to where they're legitimately in the playoffs, but competitive team night to night, where last year, I mean, they were a bottom feeder, rolled on by every team, nothing really to hang their hat on. And I think that the Blazers have established an identity for themselves. Most importantly, it's the defensive identity that they've cultivated. I really like some of the young personnel. I think the biggest guy that I'm most confident in, figuratively and literally, is Donovan Clingan. I think Donovan Clingan is a stud I really wish the Charlotte Hornets had drafted him in the draft. I thought that he was the no-brainer pick for them for what they needed, but he slipped to the Blazers at 7. I thought it was the steal of the draft. He is an elite rebounder. He is an elite rim protector, and I think he's got more offensive game than some of the numbers would suggest. I think he's a guy that you can dump the ball to in the block and feed for some easy post touches. On top of that, I thought we saw a really great year from Toumani Camara. We were talking about really impactful defensive wings. Camara has to be there. I think he leads the NBA in charges taken this year, too. He's been excellent at that. And again, it's really hard. I want to emphasize that point. I like their personnel, but it's really hard to get young guys to buy in defensively and to get a team to commit that much on this end. And those two guys, I think, really have. But it doesn't stop there. Denny Avdia has blossomed into this do-it-all wing, who I know you've loved since he was a prospect, Carson. And we liked him as an asset from Washington. I think he's played even better this year, where not only is he's been a monster defensively, but you're seeing some of the playmaking and some of the scoring now more that he's been given more opportunity here in Portland. And then on top of that, two guys that I think a year ago, if you had asked, were probably the building blocks for this team, they still got. And I think have had good years. I think Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe still have a lot more to grow in and to tap into offensively as real building blocks for this team. And so there's just a lot of young players that I like on this roster, man. And there's a lot to work with here where I think you can pick and choose for the future, right? Because it's not just guys that are going to be here. It's assets that you could move on to other teams, right? If that's an Ant Simons, if Avdia is one of those guys that's going to get moved on from, if it's Jeremy Grant, I think they've got building blocks that I like for the future, guys that you can build a solid foundation on, and Klingon and Kamara and Shaedon Sharpe, but they've also got assets that they could dangle in front of teams and going out and get future assets or go and get win-now players. For me, it's far and away Portland. I think they've got, if there was a team I was going to pick that would go from this non-lottery or lottery to play-in area to a playoff team next year, I think it would be Portland.
Yeah, it sucks that all the good teams are in the West, though, man, except for, like...
It does, right?
3 of them, because it's hard to make the playoffs in the Western Conference, but I also would take Portland here pretty easily, and they just extended their GM, Joe Cronin, today. Very appropriate, because he's done a really nice job with the rebuild there. You mentioned the 3 pieces who are my favorites here. And, like, they're not necessarily the shiniest. They're not necessarily the most offensively gifted.
I think that they got the most winning impact right now.
They're dudes who are going to help any team win basketball games, man. And that's Klingon, who is already one of the best rim protectors and one of the best rebounders on the planet. And I think can grow offensively. I think he's got good touch. I think he's got good feel as a passer, and his size is just absolutely insane. He's going to be super productive and impactful for his entire career. Toumani Camara, all defense caliber wing, like really good team defender, as you mentioned, makes some plays at the rim, takes charges, and also has insane matchup versatility as an on-ball defender. And he's a really good rebounder. He's a great offensive rebounder, shooting over 37% from deep. Like, has grown into a very solid offensive player as well. I want that dude on my team every single day of the week. And then Denny, I have always been a real believer in as a basketball player, and he's having a very good season. He's averaging 17, 7, and 4 on over 60% true shooting, has legitimate on-ball juice, is super effective as a driver, gets to the line at a really good rate, good passer, good rebounder, versatile defender, shooting almost 37% from 3. So, like, all those guys are making two-way impacts. They're versatile, and they're winning basketball players fundamentally. And, like, this is what's crazy, Logan. When those 3 are on the floor together, the Blazers have a plus 7.3 net rating. That is by far the best 3-man lineup combo out of any of their top 25 lineup combinations by usage. I didn't know that before I highlighted those 3 as, like, by far my favorite building blocks for this team, but they have a defensive rating of sub 107 in those minutes. It's such a great defensive core, and I'm so optimistic about what they can be on that side of the ball. And then offensively, like, there's some intriguing pieces. Shaedon Sharpe, I do think, is the guy who has the highest ceiling out of this group. Like, he's an excellent athlete and a really good finisher at the rim. He was efficient as an isolation creator and pick and roll creator this year. He just has to shoot better, a lot better. He had a really down shooting year, 30% from deep. That's really surprising considering the level he shot at his first couple years in the league and the level of shooter he was as a prospect. I think he's actually got a pretty special combination of slashing and outside shooting ability. And, you know, he's got to continue to definitely refine his game and grow as a playmaker. So, like, I'm not as confident in him just being like a winning basketball player as I am with the three dudes who I mentioned, but I definitely see a lot of upside with him offensively. He's going to give you numbers no matter what. The question is, how efficient is he? What level does he get to in terms of enhancing other people around him? And then, like, there's more good pieces here. We know who Ant Simons is, like, bad defender, not going to be super efficient, hasn't grown as a playmaker to the level where it's like you're going to entrust him with really running your offense. So he's probably a piece who you try to move. I don't know. He's on an expiring next year.
I think that's what makes Portland really, really interesting, though, is that kind of blend of,
yeah,
you know, they've got, like, guys on bigger contracts, but they're maybe not the most valuable assets. Like, you know, I've been critical of this guy, and I thought he had a decent year, but, like, DeAndre Ayton is another guy that I would be willing to shop and see, all right,
yeah,
who wants him? Give me back a young piece. Give me back a pick. Give me something. Like, that's what's really fascinating about Portland to me is that they have an abundance of assets that, you know, don't necessarily fit with their timeline. And I'm just really intrigued at what they could do and the big-time moves they could make in this offseason to get better, to get younger, or to move around, because I would be chomping at the bit to move off of Ayton and insert Klingon into that starting five.
100%. And both Simons and Ayton are on expiring contracts next year. They're both basically who they are at this point. Like, I'm not really expecting growth from either one, and not pieces I would be super invested in long term. And they're both a little bit older than the rest of your timeline. So, like, I would definitely be looking to try to get off of those two guys to get some assets back. And you're right. I mean, that is definitely an advantage that this team does have. They've got a lot of talented basketball players, and even if they don't all perfectly align with their timeline, their vision,
man.
It's a very good problem to have. And Scoot, I think, could be a solid starting point guard, right? I don't think that he has the star ceiling that I thought he did as a prospect. He just honestly is not the remarkable athlete that he seemed to be as a prospect when you drop him into an NBA context. But he got a little better as a shooter this year. I still think is a very solid passer, has been capable defensively this year. Definitely needs to get better scoring inside the arc. And, like, again, I'm not seeing star upside there with him. But really, when I look at this group, they just need that number one talent. Because, like, they already have so many of those plug-and-play winning pieces I really like. If they got that dude who was, like, your franchise talent, your real offensive number one, then I'd be all in on Portland. But they don't have that guy. And unfortunately, unless they get really lucky in the lottery, they're not going to be in a good position to get him this year because they're too good.
I think I'm a little more optimistic about Scoot. Like, I don't know. I think
being their number one.
I think he could be a really good number two. I don't know about a number one. I think we saw him be a little bit more efficient this year. I think we saw him improve as a jump shooter marginally. Like, I don't know. He didn't have like a. He didn't get worse this year. I thought he got
he definitely got better, but he had a rough rookie year.
He did have a really rough rookie season, but I thought the circumstances were tough then. I'm just not out on him. Like, I think you're about right. I think he could be an above-average starting point guard. I think he could be good, but I think I fundamentally agree. I still think they need that guy. Do you think, does Shaedon Sharpe have that kind of upside to you or no?
I don't think that he'll ever be an offensive number one to me just because I don't see him growing that much as a playmaker.
But as a scorer.
He could be a really, really good scorer of the basketball. So maybe, but like if your aspirations are contending, I don't know. I'd want him to be my number two. And then you've got your wings who do it all, and you've got your big who anchors your defense in Klingon. I'm still looking for like that really great lead playmaker in scoring. Honestly, I think it's just a great point guard. And unfortunately, I don't think Scoot is going to be that guy. I think he can be solid, but like he has improved as a jump shooter. The rim pressure, the rim finishing It's just not what I thought it would be. It's been better than last year, but it's still just not good, honestly. It's just not good enough.
I think Amen's closer to what I thought Scoot was going to be. Not like defensively, but like I think
Amen is what I thought Amen was going to be.
True. Bars. I just thought Scoot was going to be better athletically.
Yeah. But Amen, you could see it, man. That's crazy athleticism from the jump with him as a prospect. So, Portland, shout out to you. Had a very good season, I think, very encouraging season, and excited to see what the future holds. What does the future hold for us? Well, we've got some awards to talk about later this week. We're going to do our final contender rankings later this week before the playoffs get started. And then you better believe the 2-month push, it's going to be something special, Logan, throughout the NBA playoffs. Cannot wait for that. But if you want to see the stuff that we've already got out there, lock in, Logan. Lock in, lest I catch you tweaking. You would hate to be caught tweaking at a time like this. It's not even an option. If you want to see the stuff we've already got out there, you can find all of our full shows on our YouTube channel. You can also see all of our video essays and video breakdowns that we do there. You can listen to the podcast across all audio platforms, and you can follow us across social media, TikTok and Instagram at NerdSesh, Twitter at @nerd_sesh. You can also join our Discord if you want to become part of our community there. And you can check out our merch if you want. That is linked in our link tree, as is our Discord. And you can also find the merch at breakingtea.com. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. I've been Carson Brabber.
I've been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.